and then we'll get going. But we should be live. Are you ready? You got your ukulele, Doug?
And now, from his basement.
Wait.
You just said you have your ukulele. Let's go.
Yeah, I know, but Aloha, patrons and listeners. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. You go ahead, Doug. Go for it.
That's what I...
Okay.
I can't hear you guys.
You can't hear us?
Uh-oh. She is, and let's see if we can, she's also muted herself, so let's see if we can get her. I bet her iPod's got, where's my private chat? Here we go. Try.
Oh, there.
Oh, wait, there you go. Can you hear us now? No?
Hi.
Uh-oh, no,
la,
she
la,
can't hear
la.
us.
Loo. Lee, lee.
I can see.
Robin, you can hear us.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was with something happened with the iPod or AirPods. I'm gonna guess. Can you hear us now?
Okay, you can hear us now?
All right. Okay. Doug.
Yay. Okay, so here we go. Oh, Stuart, Yoshida, and the OokTown Podcast. There we go.
Awesome. Aloha, patrons and listeners. This is Stuart Yoshida, host of the OokTown Podcast, where we talk about all things ukulele. And I guess we're back to normal. I don't know. Where we're back in our studios in Colorado, and Doug is back from GNUF, my co-host,
yes,
who has shared his amazing talents with the community over in the Grand Northern area, Huddersfield. So, Doug, welcome back.
Well, thanks. I am glad to be back, although I could have stayed over there for a long time because it was awesome.
Wow.
And so first up, let's introduce Mary Agnes Grell. Hey, Mary Agnes, how are you?
Hey, Mary Agnes, welcome back to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to come to OokTown.
Yeah, and so Doug, did you not get? You didn't have a segment on Mary Agnes, did you? Because if so, I dropped it.
Somebody was way too busy
to
talk to. That was always my plan, by the way. I don't know that I actually communicated that, but yes, this was always kind of my plan after the dust had settled.
Your evil plan was to interview your after, which is a brilliant idea because coordinating all of that, I'm sure, was no small feat. So awesome to have you.
No, Mary Agnes has normal sized feet, as I can report because I've actually met her. Yay!
I like that. That's what you've been paying attention to, Doug. Is you go to the UK, you meet people, and you take a look at the foot size. That's a very normal thing to do.
Well, so many people that I met over there at GNUF were people from the Pandemic Pluckers that I've been playing ukulele with for like 3 years. And have never seen their legs at all. So, like, realistically, that was something I was paying attention to.
You actually do have legs. That's awesome. All right. Were you going to introduce our next guest? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, indeed. Next up is Robin Evans, who I have a bit of a beef with because if I was a Guinness Book of World Record holder, I would have that tattooed on my forehead so that people who met me would be able to talk about it right away and not have to find out about it like a month later. What do you say to that, Robin?
I mean, it's no biggie, is it? I mean, everyone's got a Guinness World Record, don't they? No, I really enjoy not shouting about it. My favorite thing is, like, I've got friends that I've been friends with at this point, like 3 years, and a couple of months ago, they're like, I had no idea you had a Guinness World Record. I'm like, I'm doing it right then. Because I feel like if I talk about it too much, maybe that's the ego. Maybe that's when I'm just going to pop. But yeah, no, I do have a Guinness World Record. It's I'm on a ukulele podcast. It's the only time I'm actually meant to be talking about this, I think. Longest time playing ukulele at 30 hours, 2 minutes. Wonderfully organised by Mary.
Yeah.
8 seconds.
8 seconds.
Not forget those.
Finished with Gay Bar by the Electric Six. Did it in Duke of York in London in 2019? No, 2017. No,
2017.
2016.
Actually,
2016.
I think I heard about this. I didn't realize it was a Guinness Book of World Record. Or
Oh
maybe I
no,
did and I've forgotten.
it is.
Well,
It's pretty
I
cool.
can tell you that that it was 23rd. No, that was the last one. Uh, and now it doesn't have the actual date that you did it.
I think it was 2016. I can go get the certificate if you want. It's hung up in my hallway. I think
Well,
I've got the
yeah. I mean, once
articles. These are
again,
articles about it. Go on. I'm just gonna.
It
I'm
was
gonna
2016, but it was awarded and publicly announced in 2017
There we go.
Aha, there you go.
Oh, very
That
good.
makes sense.
because I
Very
was
good.
the one who did all of the admin on
Yeah,
that one.
Ah.
Mary did a lot more work than I did on that one for sure. One of us did 30 hours worth of work, and the other one did months on end.
Well, now that we have the important thing taken care of, let's back off now and talk about GNUF this year. Oh wow, what a great time everybody had. Mary Agnes, what was your? Do you have a favorite moment, like just a window?
I mean, I think, yeah, I have two favorite moments. No, I have three. I'm sorry, and they were all unexpected. My absolute favorite is at the after party when my husband, at the end of playing 52 Vincent Black Lightning, smashed a uke on stage.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was one he'd made. It was one that had a crack because we took it to Finland and didn't mind the humidity, but it didn't matter. It was that for him was like a life goal, and it shocked everybody, and I thought it was hilarious. We had a band from the Isle of Man. We are the only ukulele festival in the UK that's ever featured a Manx band. I can say that confidently. And they sang in Manx Gaelic on the main stage and got the audience singing along. And that is a band that is led by young people with a female lead. So I was really proud of that. And then we had Bernadette teaches music over because we had some sponsorship from Ortega. And there was a moment when in the dressing room, I could hear what sounded a bit like a riff from Dre, and I was expecting some kind of California hip hop, and I went running upstairs, and Bernadette, Boris Mogilevsky, and Ten Thumbs, I forget his name. Anyway, Tyler Ostenfeld. They were playing California like hip hop themed GNUF rap that they had written, and just killing it from the main stage. And I thought, because I don't know if we'll ever do another GNUF in the way that we have done it, because in some ways I feel like we achieved every one of our goals, and if we don't, and it ended with a smashed uke, a theater singing a song in Manx Gaelic led by a young woman and her 19-year-old trumpet playing brother, and a California hip hop GNUF rap. Like, this California girl is totally happy with that.
Wow. I'm assuming they played that too. Did they bring that out when they? Oh, nice. Wow.
Now,
mic drop there.
Their name is Brisky
Bisky Brisht.
I was there for that, and they were fantastic. Actually, what is her name? The lead singer,
Ruby Bisco.
Oh, yeah. So Ruby, I was hanging out with some pandemic pluckers on Friday, and she just came and sat down at our table, and we all jammed together, and it was wonderful. And it was just terrific. Okay, Robin, what were some of your favorite moments?
That's a very good question, Doug. It's almost like I've looked at the question list beforehand. He says, stalling for time. No, I'm going to do one for each day, because I think that each day is a very different thing. At GNUF, I'm sure you sort of found this. On the Friday, it's just getting going. There's a couple more low-key things. For me, I sat in a bar called Northern Quarter where we were putting on a sort of acoustic singer-songwriter evening, and I caught a set from a guy called Rob Crisp, who I've known for a long time, who's based in Huddersfield, and this is our first year actually managing to work with Rob, and he teaches at like Leeds Conservatoire, really good. And he was just doing a solo set on ukulele of songs that he'd written, and they were fantastic, and each one was really good. And it felt very much like very true to GNUF, being right there with someone from Huddersfield who works in Huddersfield, who works in the arts. Rob then throughout the weekend also taught a workshop on how to teach and how to play ukulele if you're visually impaired, which was one thing we were really, really excited about. And he did another set on another stage at one point as well, which was great. But that was a real highlight of thinking this is great. We love it. Then the Saturday, and that might actually be the Sunday. The Saturday, we're gonna say, I've had a complete brain melt. Actually, no, it was Elizabeth Pfeiffer that was on the Saturday. One of her songs, which was a bit more prog than she usually does, and usually Elizabeth does like beautiful classical music. And it was then seeing that Elizabeth has been playing at Grand Northern since 2017, something like that, and the progression from very classical stuff to doing some more prog inspired stuff, and it's really nice to see the artists develop along with the festival. So that I remember thinking this is really cool. And on the Sunday, the finale at the end, singing Dakota by Stereophonics, looking out into a whole sea of people playing it and everyone on the stage playing it. That was a really special moment. And yeah, I was quite lucky in that I think everyone was very much there in the moment playing it on the ukulele, but I was doing the live streaming on the Instagram or whatever it was, and that was very nice because it sort of took me out a bit and I could sort of look at it and from a perspective and think this is something that we made. So yeah, those were probably my three things that I enjoyed from the weekend.
Yay! Well,
wow.
So a couple of things for me. First of all, getting to meet you guys, fantastic. That was just really great, and being able to help out. Like, I just love helping, and being able to help out was great. So I went Friday night. I went and saw PPNOU next door. Those guys, and I have a link in the show notes to them. I have a link to the show notes in everybody that we've mentioned, but those guys, you want to talk about a group that just really had the audience in the palm of their hand, and those guys are fantastic, and just a heartbreaker because I tried to interview them the entire time I was there, and it just never worked out. So if you're listening, I'm coming for you. We're going to get you back on the podcast sometime.
I'm pretty sure you can get a hold of them through someone on the show. I'm thinking, I don't know. Just saying.
Yes, indeed. It's that was, but they were just so great, and all of the interviews that I did, especially Elizabeth. So I was telling somebody how all through. So we went to Barcelona, and then we went to Huddersfield, and everywhere that I went, I'd say, "Oh yeah, I'm from America," and I'd have people say, "Oh, I have a cousin in Florida. Do you know them?" And
right,
But then I met Elizabeth, and I said, "Oh, I have a friend in Germany, Uwe."
Yeah.
And realized it the moment it came out of my mouth. But of course, they are Facebook friends. So.
Oh, is that right? Well, there you go.
The world is a lot smaller.
Yeah, and you never. If they mention someone in a ukulele club, you probably would know them or at least know the club. I'm guessing, Doug.
Yeah.
And but for those folks that were at the GNUF, was it scary to see a man with a large black hat walking around with an ukulele from America? Or did you not bring that hat?
I didn't bring that hat because I couldn't put it in my luggage.
Okay, never mind. Next time.
That's okay. And then, but interviewing everybody was just so cool. But one of the things that I thought was so amazing was my good friend Matt Stead, who has been on the podcast a bunch of times. I got to go on his Sunday hike, and it was perfect. After Saturday being so wound up and and I tell everybody this, that the English love their poems, and if I would have tried to read poems before going on a hike, it would sound super pretentious. Matt had some that were just perfect. Read a poem, hike. We did kind of a meditative strum He
Wow.
talked a little bit about soloing. We did some soloing, and then we strummed some songs, and all without like a sheet of music anywhere, which like I never thought that I would be that guy. But and then hike, and then we were back, and it was it was just fantastic. Yay!
Wow.
Stuart, what were your favorite memories of GNUF?
I didn't have to prepare or do anything, and I got this great set of audio that I just had to put together and send off into the ether. It was awesome. So really appreciate you
Yay!
doing all of that. Plus all the show notes, and you guys should have it should be on iTunes. I think I sent it off to Mary Agnes. Is that right, Mary Agnes?
I think so.
I hope so. If not, just ping me. But it's all there on the iTunes. And you going to tell everyone what your ETA is for the video? I guess people are already asking.
Yeah, I've got it on my work computer, and it's not surprisingly, I've been doing that thing where after you come back from vacation, you have to work a lot harder because you're making up for the time that you've been gone.
I can understand that. Well, so it's coming, and as soon as you get it, we'll upload it to the channel, and we'll have it on YouTube, and it'll probably be pretty nice since you're splicing things together, right? You're gonna
I'm gonna cut it together a little bit more than we usually do, but yeah. So, were there any things about this year's GNUF that were especially challenging? Which, after doing it 10 years, like I understand the idea that it's all kind of challenging. And
I think the thing that is always the most challenging is that some people who probably don't mean to do it are absolute divas. And they
was
forget.
it me?
Yeah.
I'm not naming names, but they forget that we are a volunteer-run organization. And the next time somebody walks up to me or anybody that I'm working with on any event and said, I was promised X, where is X? I might not hold my tongue like we have always done at GNUF, because every year someone just seems to want to treat us like we owe them the world. And I didn't expect it this year. I thought it's our 10th anniversary. People are really happy. And yet again, some divas of all genders came out of the woodworks.
It was.
So that was challenging.
I would say fewer than some years. Some years it feels like everything I'm doing is something that someone's like, I need that on my rider or whatever.
Wow.
We don't tend to do artist riders, but then things appear. It's always quite interesting. It's always quite fun.
I guess they've never done their own roading and have to do sound mixes and go up on the stage and carry heavy equipment and set up your own monitors and mics and what? Where
The
are
most
these
professional
people
folks are the
playing?
nicest. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I recount this story where the first time we ever had roadies was there's a foundation in Fort Collins called the Bohemian Foundation, and the founder, she's all over arts and music, and she treated us like we were rock stars. And it was the first time I'd ever been to a green room. For me, I've seen a green room from afar, but wow, okay, yeah, all ukulele players out there, go on the road for a while, and you'll know what we're talking about.
So, seriously, watch how Jake Shimabukuro treats people.
Yeah,
Or
he's
maybe
awesome.
Craig and Sarah.
Yeah,
Craig and
yeah.
Sarah! Yay!
Yay.
I remember this was last year, I think, and we were doing some bits in the office, and Jake popped his head in with his crew, and like, how you guys doing? We're like, we're good, and then he's like, we're gonna go get some lunch. Do you want anything? And we're like, Jake, you're a headline artist. You're not getting us lunch. That is that is too far. No,
life on the road can be pretty rough. So yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I'm sure you guys treat everyone right. I'll bet you guys had a green room. I don't know, but I'm just gonna guess.
Oh yes, it was fantastic. Well, and the dressing room situation, I felt it felt bad because I ended up kind of taking a big chunk of one of the dressing rooms to set up my studio that
Oh,
you guys
right.
will see
Yeah.
with a humongous GNUF poster as a backdrop. Oh man, it was great.
Oh, wow. Oh, I'm excited to see that, Doug.
Yes, indeed.
No,
So
I
how
was.
did this year compare to previous years? Just in terms of how it ran and the yeah.
Do you want to take this one first, Robin?
I will happily take this one. Going into this year, was maybe one of the most stressed I've been going into one of these festivals. Partly my own fault because, let's face it, I went to Switzerland the week before and I went to Poland 2 weeks before, and those are very important weeks. But also, we just come out of a cost of living crisis in the UK. We'd had a lot of budget, shenaniganing. Everything was more expensive. It was going into it. It felt like a lot more work. On the weekend, it is the most relaxed I've ever been at the festival. It all went really smoothly. It was, from our point of view, it felt very friendly, it felt very inclusive, and it felt very relaxed. And I've had artists saying to me as well, everything seemed to be really well organized and well oiled. And that, I like, obviously, I'd love to just sit and watch the acts all day, but I don't have time for it. Mary's the same. But that, for us, is the atmosphere. Felt chilled out, felt good, felt like we it's a kind of old hat at this point. We know what we're doing, and so it felt like a very relaxed weekend in comparison to previous years, where sometimes it can be a bit stressful.
Yeah, I mean, I think it. Oh, go on.
Oh no, I'm just going to say outstanding. How about you, Mary?
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think it's fair to say that Rollin and Rob, my husband, who works on the festival with us as well, and myself,
Rob!
We love Rob, but he's 300 miles away right now. But we all felt like it was the best festival we have ever put on as a GNUF, and for different reasons. And all of us, normally by the time you get to Sunday morning, are just destroyed. And we get to Sunday morning, in fact, even Saturday morning, which can be one of the most stressing moments of the festival, and there was just not the stress. Sunday morning was positively chill. The amount of times people came to my office to say, do you need any help? And I'm like, no, why don't you just go outside and enjoy things? Was astonishing. And I think, part of that is that Robin and Rob and I work well with each other. We decided to do our best to keep communications open and to trust one another. And we really slimmed down the festival team. We used to have a lot of satellite people involved in the festival who would really only show up at the weekend, and that just made more work for all of us. What we did this time is the festival team was largely just Robin and Rob and myself, but before we got to the weekend, and you were part of this, Doug, we identified about a dozen people, individuals and pairs of people, and asked them to take ownership of specific things. So Robin's friends, Megan and George, between them kind of owned a lot of what was happening at the parish on certain days. On the Friday afternoon, the Dead Man Juke ran that. My friends Nicola and David, who came up from Brighton, they kind of owned the green room and also kind of owned the courtyard, just checking in on stuff every once in a while. And we also hired a stage manager for the courtyard, which we'd never done, who was a 19-year-old studying music tech, who volunteered at the festival as a school child for years previously, and whose mom is our front of house manager. So, Sam did a fantastic job running that stage, and that work to identify people that could really own parts of the festival and also make it their own, without making it about themselves, I think was huge and really positive, because there have been times at GNUF where it's felt like, oh, this year's GNUF was about the compare, or this year's GNUF was about this particular stage or this particular act or something. And one of the reasons we started GNUF was to try to not underline that thing about making something about one person, but making it inclusive and open and about a lot of different people, a lot of different voices. And so, yeah, so for me, that that the best festival we've ever done was the best festival because there was a multitude of voices at different levels and at different times, some of whom had never been involved and some of whom helped with the very first festival coming back. Felt, I think, pretty fantastic.
Well, and then Sam also marked something else off of my English bingo card, besides having an English breakfast, but that meeting a real English punk rocker, like being an American punk, like that was freaking awesome. And then his Saturday, the stage that I compared, the second act, I want to say, was super political punk rock.
Oh, Isaac, he's Dennis.
Yeah, Isaac was fantastic. Oh man, super fan. Oh, so good.
Do you know that Isaac has played our festival since he was a school child? He was once in a band with some of our kids. And when there are pictures of him playing at GNUF like 7-8 years ago when he is tiny.
Oh, he was one of those surprises at GNUF. Speaking of surprises, what surprised you this year?
Well, now you mentioned something. Did you say that this was the 10th anniversary or the 10th one? Which were?
It's the 10th year, but in the pandemic, we did an online Just Can't Get GNUF in the first year of the pandemic. And the second year, instead of doing the full festival, because we were still virtual, we did a series of virtual care home variety shows. So it's the 10th anniversary of the festival, but we've done 8. Technically, we've done 9 festivals because we kind of are 10 and a half years old. But
so did you how was it advertised? Was it advertised as the 10th? I'm just curious.
Yeah, 10 years of GNUF. So our T-shirts say 10 on them.
10 years of ukulele magic.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
I should go get my T-shirt that I got that has Doug Brown's name on it.
That's what I was going to ask. Did Doug get one of those? You know,
it does say Dougtown of OokTown Podcast too, so OokTown's on there as well.
Oh, so you're on there too, Stuart.
Oh, there you go. All right. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I just wanted to point that out. It's like, okay, wow, wait a minute, 10th anniversary of GNUF. That's awesome. Okay, so sorry. Yes.
Oh,
where were we, Doug?
Yeah. So surprises this year, and let's start with Mary Agnes.
Oh, good news. How well it went. How it really did not feel like hard work. Also, there were some stats that surprised me. When we started GNUF, we started it because there weren't really many events in the north. The farthest north was Cheltenham, which is not in the north. And we know from the people that come to our festival that there are loads of events. Like I'm going to go to one in 2 weeks' time in the north. There's one next weekend in the north. So seeing the evidence of our work, which was in part about trying to inspire people to do their own things and to do things above London and the kind of south, was really positive. But one of the other things is, and this is going to sound funny coming from me, but I'm really tired of ukulele festivals being organized by middle-aged and older white men. I'm sorry, but that seems to be who in this country thinks that they should be organizing a ukulele festival. And when we started GNUF, we wanted to try to disrupt that, actually. And because a lot of ukulele players are not men, they're not middle-aged, they are younger, or they might be a lot older. And in our ticket holder stats, we had more female attendees than male for the first time ever. And that's pretty shocking, actually, even for the industry. We had far more female performers and female performers under the age of 35 on our stages than we've ever had before.
We were one act off a...
Sorry?
So we were one act off a complete even gender split.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
And we didn't advertise it, but we definitely behind the scenes worked on this. And also, we are an openly queer-friendly ukulele festival, and the visible presence of queer ukulele players was stronger this time than before. And some of the people that were there are people who said, like, the ukulele festival scene feels like a kind of, white, straight, middle-aged old man scene. I don't feel like there's a place in it for me. Some of those same people were out and proud working on and or just attending and having a great time at GNUF this year. Those things surprise me because it's taken a lot of hard work, and Robin and I and Rob have worked so hard behind the scenes to try to even that gender split, to try to make it clear that everybody is welcome, and to try to find a way for the voices you don't always hear from to be given a platform. So yeah, I was surprised. I didn't think we'd hit all of those balls, and I think we hit every one of them out of the park.
Well, I think that's a good thing, because just in general for the ukulele, because yeah, I do notice the demographics of the ukulele festivals. I can understand to some extent kind of the history of the ukulele and where it came from, but just for the health of the ukulele festivals in the future, this is what we need to do, is expand our demographics, right? Not look at these and we love all the older white males out there too. However, they are getting older, as I am. You can see more gray hair for me. We need to fill our ranks and kind of pull in the next generation, right? So that's all important.
I'm gonna pop for 2 seconds, disappear because I have to go take some quiches out of the oven. But
Definitely.
Robin, we should come back to that when we talk about the future.
Yeah. The future. Ooh, look at this. Yeah. Kind of a teaser. She left us with a teaser as she went to check the quiche.
An audible ellipsis there, I think. Oh, they're looking good.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
For everybody who's just listening, some delicious muffin pan quiches there. So, Robin, what surprised you this year?
Oh, I mean, there were so many different. I'd say every hour there's something that makes you go, oh. There's some were like music surprises. The washboard resonators haven't really played they've never played a ukulele festival before. They went down like an absolute storm, and we thought they would. We thought they'd be great, but that's one of the acts that I've seen loads of good feedback about. I was surprised by PPNOU at the end of the weekend coming up to me and saying, "Robin, we're very disappointed. You've only had us playing 5 times." And I was like, yeah, because what we have is more stages. You're on every stage, Conchal. I was very surprised by that. I was surprised generally by walking around the festival, and as we were discussing earlier, seeing a lot more women there, seeing a lot more younger people there, seeing a lot of first-timers who had never been to GNUF before. They're loving it, having fun, and that really meant a lot. And I was also very pleasantly surprised by so we had U3 as a headliner this year. I've spoken to Cynthia on Zoom. I'd not spoken to Lenny and Abe. Lenny may be one of my favorite people. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the work of Michael Bolton, but his his version of When a Man Loves a Woman is one of the best and worst songs of all time simultaneously. And so George and I, who is in my band Squat Lobster, it's just us. We just do sexy Christmas songs. This is very much a detour. We finished the Christmas party that we were doing, and the first song that we requested was When a Man Loves a Woman by Michael Bolton, and we jokingly started singing along, and Lenny just ran up on stage and was singing along at the top of his lungs, and I was like, I have no idea what's happening, but it was a delight. But it's that with everyone, you meet people that you've only known online, and I'm sure you're aware, Doug, they're wonderful, they're great, or you meet people that you've not seen, and I'd not seen Isaac since 2018, I don't think, and Isaac's now I was going to say a nice young boy, but that's not fully adult man playing wonderful ukulele. So I think that's it. The surprise is that people will always surprise you. The tech director, James, on the Sunday afternoon says, we've got a very good, all the entire tech team for the Lawrence Batley Theatre make our lives so much easier. We should have mentioned them earlier when we said it was so easy this year. It was half because of them, probably. But James just appeared. He's like, I've taken this photo with a drone of the courtyard. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Can we use that at the end? And then we got a video at the end of the drone going back up and waving it off, which was really nice. And I can't somehow work out how to get that video onto Facebook, as I tried for like half an hour on Friday, and now I've given up. But I'm going to convert it into a different video format, and then we're going to have it up, and you'll see it, and it's lovely.
Yay!
I'm going to be quiet now.
So one of the things, everything just surprised me. Everything was just so great. But one of the things that was not necessarily ukulele related was the commentators. They were there commentating, and it was really, really cool. I've thrown up a picture of the commentators. Now, to digress just a little, I also watched Ted Lasso this last week, and the commentators, the mic that they have is called a ribbon lip mic, and so it's a ribbon microphone, and you really are meant to have it just right here, and it really does sound wonderful. But they were very funny, very cool. That was the thing that surprised me. So yes.
So where are the commentators from, and what's the connection here? Is this like a British thing?
No,
a Ted Lasso thing?
So, as the festival director, every single year, I have made it a point to bring something in that has nothing to do with the ukulele. And that can include bands that don't even play the ukulele. We just ask them if they'll play it on one song or something. And then we went to the Moseley Folk Festival in 2019 with our friend Daz Wright and his wife Emma. They run the massive Mausolele in Birmingham, which is a big ukulele group. They're fantastic. We went to the Moseley Folk Festival with them, and we saw the commentators, and I thought, this is brilliant. And I got in touch with them, but the pandemic happened, and it didn't seem like we were going to be able to get them to come to the festival. And about 2 months beforehand, they got in touch. And they're a theater company called Stan's Calf, who I have a connection to because they know the person who 20 years ago invited me to come to England to interview for the job that brought me over here. But it was just almost random chance. Like we thought it would be a good idea as one of the non-ukulele things. And then it fizzled, and then they came back. And as soon as I told Robin, and as soon as I told my husband Rob, we were all 100% on board. So in addition to commentating on our festival, they do things like they commentated on a Scalextrics competition, on children's sports days, on
nice.
the launch of a town hall, but all at old-fashioned sports commentators in that style.
Yeah. Wow.
They're very, very cool.
And so you had them, and do they have their own act, like a music act, or were they just more commentating on what's going on?
They were just commentating.
Nice. So they were kind of like the emceeing throughout the festival. Is that what they were doing?
They were only there on Friday because that was all that kind of worked for us. So they started by just wandering around town, standing on street corners, commentating on, there is another person carrying a ukulele. Oh, it appears that they know the person that is, they commentated on that. They commentated on just some of the street scenes, like the youth of Huddersfield. But then they went into some of the performances and commentated. So on Friday night, Cynthia Lynn ran a jam upstairs in the Parish, which is next door to the main theater. And people were queuing down the stairs and down the block to get into that. So there was no way of getting in. On Friday, we walk around to all the venues and check on things. I heard about a third of their set because I watched the commentators who were backstage commentating on their performances and trying to make sense of them. And it was beautiful. They're not mean-spirited at all. It's just hilarious.
That's awesome. Did you get... Man, I wonder if we can include some of that. Can we get? Is that recorded somewhere?
Oh yeah, there's a link in the show notes to them.
There you go.
And they've got stuff on YouTube.
Okay, so their stuff on the GNUF is posted or somewhere, right?
Yep.
Is that what you're saying? Oh,
actually,
cool.
you can see Doug Brown talking to them and playing a little bit of AC/DC.
Nice.
So.
Yeah. Did you bring your flame throwing ukulele, or was that verboten?
No. I had my Inya.
Nice.
Although I ended up having to buy another ukulele when I got back.
Yeah.
Because when I got this one, I don't think they had the soprano in you, and it's like, and I saw a couple of people at GNUF that had them, and so I had to go out and buy them. So
Yeah, the FOMO.
you know, the tough times that it is.
FOMO moment with the ukulele acquisition. Yeah, I hear you. Cool. So you got it? You got the soprano?
Oh yes, yeah, it's great. It is great. So, going back to the start of GNUF, where did the idea come from?
Well, this is going to sound hilarious given everything that's happened in the last fortnight. Okay, so I've worked in festivals since I was 18 years old. The first time I came to England, I came over for a summer and stayed with family friends, and was told I couldn't just stay in the house all day. And so I found a theater festival and asked if I could volunteer. And I volunteered at the London International Festival of Theater. They were biannual. So the next festival, they had me back over, and I organized their volunteers. When I was in grad school, I worked on a student film festival. I've organized different types of festivals, worked on literary festivals, film festivals, festivals of ideas. In about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, so we're talking like 2010, 2012, there were a couple of ukulele events in the UK, but they were all in London. There was one in Worthing one year, which is right on the south coast near Brighton. And there was the Ukulele Festival of Great Britain that ran for 8 years in Cheltenham. And there was nothing further north. But we knew that there were lots of ukulele players and clubs further north, in part because we knew people who lived up there. And it certainly proved to be the case when GNUF happened. So so we wanted something that was up in the north. And my husband, Rob, and myself, and Tony Casey, who was one of the other founding members, felt pretty strongly about that. The other thing is that I'm an American, and the class situation with Americans is that I'm always going to kind of be an outsider in this country. And the biggest ukulele festival in the world, which was the one in Cheltenham, I always felt like an outsider when I was there. And I know that was never intentional, but I wanted, and Rob and Tony felt the same, to try to create a ukulele festival where nobody felt like an outsider. It turns out they also felt a little bit like outsiders because there's a north-south divide in the UK. So as Northerners, they felt like they didn't quite belong. So we wanted to do something that kind of felt a bit more inclusive. And that tried to maybe just chip away at that north-south divide a bit. And that also felt more like a music festival. So the format for ukulele festivals in this country prior to GNUF was a one-day event that happens on a Saturday. There's a trade show in one space, and then everybody who performs just performs on the main stage, and that's it. And then there's an after party, but the after party is pretty exclusive, and it's just the organizers, their friends, and some of the artists. And that model, you saw at Worthing, you saw at Cheltenham, you saw at some of the London festivals. It's a model that is fine. But to me, again, as somebody who worked in festivals, it didn't feel like a festival. It felt like a day-long event, you know. And which is why, like at GNUF, we don't have a trade show. We have some stalls in the lobby that you have to walk past to go to see the main stage. But there are enough trade shows for music in the world. That's not something we wanted to do with GNUF. And we didn't want to program just a single stage. We wanted small stages where people could try out crazy ideas like sexy Christmas songs in June and yodeling and pickup bands and things like that. So it was trying to just, again, disrupt what was feeling like in 2010 it had become a kind of established way of doing things in the ukulele space that didn't quite feel like a festival, and which I'm sure it was without meaning to, felt like it was kind of not doing any favors to the north-south divide tensions or the us and them tensions that you can get in some communities. So yeah, we just want to try to chip away at that, and that's why we did it. And I feel, that's it.
And that was did they call it Southern Ukulele Festival? I can't remember what it was called.
No, it was the Ukulele Festival of Great Britain. There was one year where there was a Grand Southern Ukulele Festival. I famously offered to mentor some people who assumed that I would just do all the work for them. And when I finally stood up to them and said no, we went their separate ways. They did it once and never again.
Okay, that's what happened. All right, got it. But the other one
Is
was
that a fair assessment, Robin?
I mean, I was in Australia at that point, so you know, I was like, oh, that's going to be cool, and then I came back and
Yeah.
don't ask me.
so there was a so the kind of the lineage was that there was a ukulele festival in the South, and you kind of said, hey, we want to make a more inclusive one in the North, and that's when you kicked off. And when was the first one again?
2013 in
2013.
Pontefract.
Okay. Of course,
Yeah.
10 years ago. I can do math now.
The thing
Yeah, 10 years makes it real nice.
It does. I don't have to think. Go ahead, Robin.
I was going to say the thing that you fight against the northern ukulele thing that people think is George Formby. So there's the George Formby
Oh,
convention who
interesting.
meet up
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Blackpool, and I think also it's the antithesis of that because that is like George Formby for the time wrote songs that were great, but they're not appropriate to play now. A lot of the lyrics are, let's face it, straight up racist, and that's not a nice inclusive environment when the content of the songs that's literally the entire thing is built around is discriminatory to people that might want to go along. So I think that like if you want to go play George Formby songs and you know pick and choose which ones so that it's more acceptable, fine, but it's not. So I think there's also a bit of, from my point of view, there's a bit of, I think it must be like anti that because you know there is a community built around it, but it's not. Yeah, it's not. You know what I mean? There you go. Yeah,
Well,
all right. Yeah.
I actually played with them online during the pandemic, and boy, they were very like, this is what we're going to do, and then we're going to like, it was very structured and not a lot of screwing around for a guy that it was kind of funny. so I never ended up going back, but yes, indeed. Do you have any memories from that first year that jump out at you?
Yeah, there's two. One was Crabbers did his open no mic for the first time ever at GNUF. Well, it's the first time ever for GNUF. He had done it previously at a ukulele campout called Hosley that we used to go to, which was awesome. And I didn't even know he was going to do it. And I walked outside, and Riley, who is now 19 years old and at university and is my youngest stepson, was about 11 years old. Well, actually, no, he was 9 years old. And he was stood there with the biggest smile on his face, just watching this. And I was, not long his stepmom, and I felt like Crabbers had created a moment where this kid thought we were doing something cool as a family. And I couldn't have asked for more. And the other is, he wasn't at our festival this year, but he's been at most others. He's called Martin Eek Cooper, or Eek. His name is Martin Cooper. He's a clown, and he's about 6'7", I think. He's so tall. He organized a flash mob to sing Happy Birthday to a local hairdresser whose shop was around the corner from the venue. And he took about 24 ukulele players, including artists from our main stage, to her shop to go sing her Happy Birthday.
Oh.
Was it actually her birthday?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not as funny.
It wasn't funny. This is that first, the thing about it is, so I feel really politically motivated by a desire to make things more fair. I think we can always do more to make things more fair and more inclusive. But that first festival, people that I didn't know very well at all went out of their way to try to create situations where people felt seen and appreciated. And I hadn't even asked them to. They just felt like, okay, this is the spirit with which this is being developed. That was the actual spirit of it. It wasn't my political views in the background. It was let's do something nice. Let's create a space where people feel included and welcomed. And they just did that.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. And what am I thinking? Is there... I think have we had Crappers on the show or the hedge inspectors? We had the hedge inspectors.
We had the hedge inspectors, and actually they are another group that I had set up a interview on Sunday, and then my amble went long, and I had to get on the train to go to London. So they are on the docket to be interviewed coming up too. Oh, and we also coming up sometime. Amber Sands is another one that I didn't get a chance to interview, and she was great, just fantastic. So yeah, we've got some interviews lined up, Stuart. So we're doing good.
Well, sounds like we have a lot. That's awesome. Because when you go over there, you get to meet all these other people. Although next month I think we need to get ready also for the Denver Ukulele Festival. So
yes, indeed,
that's coming
It is
up.
on its way.
Yeah, nice. Well, this is fun, Doug. Keep going. What else do you have on your interview?
Well, let's take a moment here and have you talk about Patreon, Stuart.
Patreon. Thank you. Well, Patreon is a great way to support this podcast because without your support, I can't keep the lights on, and I need to pay bills. I need to pay for the hosting and for the renewals of our domains so we can keep publishing on the OokTown Podcast on OokTown.com. So go over to patreon.com/OokTown and check it out, whatever you can. And thank you, Doug, because I haven't done that in a while, and I keep thinking I keep forgetting to do that. So this has been awesome. So it's been wonderful having the support of everyone and having listeners. I know between 500 and 1,000 listeners we have, and it's really nice because we get to spread the message. I think, and I like to think we introduce people to different concepts and different points of view and different people. Maybe you never heard of these ukulele players or festivals. And so that's some of the awesomeness and benefits of the OokTown podcast. So thanks for asking.
Yes, indeed. So, Robin, what year was your first year at GNUF?
Oh, my first year was 2015, and I was 20 at the time. I was a university student. So that was the third GNUF. Yeah, I think 2015 was the third one, wasn't it? Yeah. And I did that absolute classic thing of thinking A, I was cool, and B, I could do hip hop. And neither of those things were true because I wore bow ties and played the ukulele. I swore, I think, 35 times in 15 minutes. And somehow now I do this. It's a weird career progression, but I'm going with it. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Not everybody can be Mr. B, the gentleman rhymer.
No, this is it.
Right.
No.
That was I really wish that he had been there because he like I have always wanted to see him. He is fantastic.
We had him in 2019 and last year. Mr. B's wonderful. Mr. B's great.
Missed him by that much.
And he couldn't be there this year because he was touring with Sparks.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about the growth of the fest and things that have specifically made you proudest about, like what you've already kind of touched on in inclusivity and is that the right word? The inclusiveness, the inclusivity.
I would go with inclusivity with the first one you did, Doug. So
sure, let's go with that one. And let's go with Robin in your time there.
Sorry, Doug. Can you repeat the question? My brain's just immediately ejected it. I can only think the word inclusivity.
Exactly. Well, I like to have you inclusivate the how it has grown and things that you're most proud of.
Okay. From the first year that I played and was part of the festival, it's the first year the festival was at the Lawrence Batley Theatre. It's nice to see how we've grown alongside the theatre. So like James, who I mentioned earlier, who's the head of their tech, when we started, James was just one of the guys that did tech for them. And now he runs the entire tech, and he's the most competent man that I think I've ever met. So it's nice to see how, like people like James's careers have grown. It's nice to see how the festival has grown. I feel like we've put more this year. We didn't put as much on as we have in previous years. I don't think. I think previous years we've often had a lot more acts, but then maybe not. I think Mary might have some better stats on that. But I feel like we've grown in with we still put a lot on. Like compared to 2015, we had four planned activities going on simultaneously on the Friday night. So just in terms of like actual scope of the amount of people that we got doing things, it's grown that way. But also just as I mentioned earlier, like seeing artists that have played like Isaac Hughes Dennis playing this year, seeing Isaac play like 7-8 years ago, and seeing how they've developed as an artist. Yeah, my answer's not very good on that one. I'm really glad this isn't a job interview because I would definitely not get this job. But the things that, to be fair, the things that I'm proud of is that we've made the careers in the ukulele scene of certain acts like you've brought them on. We brought them onto the scene, and now you see them at other places, and especially for acts that otherwise wouldn't be in the scene. Like Bisky Brisht, you are going to see at other ukulele festivals in the UK. There are no two ways about it. Those guys came in this year and absolutely murdered everybody in the room in like a nice way, in a good way. And it's things like that where I think, even though it's not the biggest scene in the UK, it's not the biggest scene in the world, there's a wonderful community in it, and it's nice to introduce people to that community and sort of be like, go get them. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that because I'm just going to keep babbling.
That was awesome. That was awesome. Mary Agnes!
So Robin is one of the things I'm most proud of with GNUF, if I'm honest.
Oh.
We met Robin, and he was still at
university.
university.
Hold on just a second. He's actually blushing.
I'm very red-faced. I'm just a very red-faced man.
For everybody that is just listening, just imagine Robin blushing. But I digress. Go ahead, Mary Agnes.
So, Robin, you meet people. Amber Sands is one of those people. Crabbers and Carolina the Hedge Inspectors are those people. Phil Dolman is one of those people. Yes, Bisky Brisht. You meet people and you just think you've got talent. This is how I approach things. Your spidey sense tells you this is a good person, and you should invest some energy in them. And once or twice, I've gotten it wrong. I've invested energy in somebody who was just a meanie to me afterwards. And all you mean people can go run away because I don't care. I'm really happy with everything we've done with GNUF and everything else. And the meanies are far, far, far outnumbered by all the really lovely people that you think to invest your time in. And Robin was one of them. He performed at the festival. We thought his little hip hop thing was cute, if questionable, even,
That's the kindest thing you could say.
He said, I have this idea. I think I'd like to go for trying to break the Guinness World Record for longest ukulele playing. And I thought, I spoke to my husband, Rob, we could help him do this. There's a lot of admin. He won't understand how big the task is. What do you think? And Rob, my husband, thought the same. This kid deserves our energy. We should invest some time in helping this guy achieve the goals he sets for himself. And we did that, and that was fantastic. And then he went away to Australia and New Zealand for a year, and he came back, and we thought, why don't we see if he wants to be a part of the festival team? And he did, and over the years, his role has slowly evolved to where this year he was not only the artist liaison, but really one of the 3 core members of the festival, really helping to run the team. And you won't know this, but Robin has been able to use some of the skills that he's learned working on GNUF to get jobs and in his own life. And he's also been able to help us as a festival team ask difficult questions of ourselves. And I feel like, and again, he's not the only person where we thought, let's invest some energy in these people because we think they're going to do great things. I mentioned others, and there are dozens. Sarah and Craig, the first time they ever performed as a duo was at GNUF. They asked if it was okay. They're like, what do you think of the idea? I'm like, if you think it's a good idea, I trust you and I want to support you, and let's do this. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of where we have been able to support people in identifying goals for themselves and achieving those goals. And when it hasn't worked out, I'm proud of where people didn't feel that it wasn't worth the attempt trying to do something. And I think, for example, Isaac Hughes Dennis once performed with Dave, my eldest stepson, as a duo, and they tried that out and it didn't really work and it wasn't the thing. And Isaac has gone on to do solo work and Dave has gone on to become a fine artist. But I do feel like they felt it was a good thing that they tried that. So that's one of the things I think I'm probably most proud of. And the other is, I mentioned this, it's really easy for festival organizers in the ukulele scene, and I think it's more prevalent in the ukulele scene to get kind of combative with each other. And that's something Rob and I talked about a lot and really tried to undermine when we can, rather than getting pulled into it. And some of my favorite moments working on GNUF are when, for example, Sabina, who runs the brilliant Berlin Ukulele Festival, came to GNUF to experience it. And then when we were in Berlin with our family, welcomed us like family of her own. Or when the organizer Arto Julkinen, who ran the Finnish Ukulele Festival, invited my husband and I over as festival guests because of all of the advice we'd given them. Or when PPNOU, who run an amazing festival in Poznan 2 weeks before GNUF, invited Robin to perform and invited again me and Rob over just to kind of see how they ran their festival and what they did. I feel that in those moments when we've been able to work with regional and international festivals and really share our knowledge, I feel proud because I feel like the best thing you can do, and this isn't just for ukulele festivals, and you've got to remember this on your worst days, like when you're surrounded by the most meanies, is find a way to be more kind to yourself and to other people. And when we've been able to do that, we've ended up supporting other festivals that have done great work, supporting artists in trying new things, and learning more about ourselves along the way. I'm really proud of that. And nobody's going to take 10 years of that away from any of us. I feel like we've made a splash and the ripples are going to keep on flowing.
Yeah, that's a great message. Again, I think, we do need that to feel connected and figure out how we can work together. Because, with that way, and we've talked about this before. Who was it? We were talking about festivals, but, the expenses add up. And so we talked about ways of, can we coordinate acts across, like, wherever it is, could be Europe, could be America, so that, when one festival brings someone over, they can share the cost with another. I mean, that's just a small way of doing it, rather than just, doing things onesie twosie, right? Because even for the artist, right, they have to plan these things out. And if they're going, one festival and then skip a week or whatever, so that's pretty, I think that's a great thing to do. And we've
supported our artists. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
We've supported our international artists in touring pretty much every time that's come up and they've asked.
Fantastic.
And even this year, for example, we had to turn over another rock and find a bit of extra money so that when Peter Luongo left us, he could fly straight to Detroit so he could go do Mighty Uke Day rather than flying all the way back home to Vancouver, which would have been cheaper, and then back out to Detroit for Mighty Uke Day. And
that's awesome.
It wasn't easy, but you know what? That is such a great festival.
Mm-hmm.
And, and Ben Hassinger, who organizes it, is just such a top human. And a bit like Sarah and Craig or Jake or whomever, like they share their knowledge. Mm-hmm. And I think they inspire you to ask yourself, what is the kindest thing going to be to do in this moment? And for me and Robin, it was turn over a bunch more rocks.
Nice. Yeah. And that is such a great example. And, that one little thing that you can do, and it's not that little, but it is accommodating, an increase in cost. But, I think it'll come around. I don't know how, but, I'm sure Peter Luongo really appreciated being able to do that. So just his schedule. And that's exactly the kinds of things that when you're a touring artist, unless you're at the upper echelon, right? You're watching all of your expenses. Gerald Ross we had some great stories from Gerald Ross because, he knows about that. He was a touring musician. And when, if you're not sponsored by some huge, if you're not Taylor Swift or you're not Beyonce, right? You got to watch your pennies. And that's awesome when you can support them that way.
Oh, and the chance to get to talk to Peter was just fantastic. He is just great and so eloquent and so. I tried to get him off on different tangents, and he just was. He was so good, and two, he had made a comment about teaching somebody to fish, and I was talking about how you would rig a ukulele up to fish, and he was so good about bringing it right back onto track, but not just going, Doug, that's silly, but it just an absolute joy to talk to him. He was great. Okay, so let's talk about the how do you put together a concert lineup and the workshops? Like do you just put everybody's name on a card and throw it up in the air, and then it comes down and it just lands in a pile, and that's the order that you do it? Because
isn't that how Mary Agnes grades her students? She gets a piece of paper, throws it down the stairs, and the ones that land down at the bottom, those are the A's, and then it goes in a curve. No, okay,
no. Shockingly. What do you want to say about how we program, Robin?
I was going to say, right, it's like you've got, because your artists are all very different. That's the smartest thing I could have said then. Your artists are all very different. It's like if you've got a big jar and you've got different sized rocks, you've only got room for a certain number of rocks. You've got to get the big rocks first, and then you get the smaller rocks, then you get the smallest rocks, and you fill it up with the sand at the end. You've got to work from a top down way. You start off with your headliners.
Seven Habits.
Seven Habits.
I know that one.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
Stephen Covey.
Yeah, I use it for anything other than that. It's a really great metaphor when you're not using it for its intended purpose. And
now,
probably
wait a second, you're not talking about the Seven Habits that was about the nuns, right? That ukulele playing nuns, the Seven Habits.
Wrong track. We need to get back on the track.
But there's for this year when we did the lineup, actually we did it really differently. We all met up in Hebden Bridge, which is where Mary and Rob were living at the time, and had a look at the artists that we want, and you roughly do the day splits. So I mean, some things are generally fairly obvious. The largest name you've got, you kind of want on the Saturday night. You want another large name really for the Sunday afternoon to keep people sticking around, and the rest of the time is yours to do what you want.
But there's a real balancing act going on about, you have to think about, well, you don't have to do this. And I'm sure not all festivals do. I'm in the Association of Festival Organizers here in the UK, nothing to do with ukulele festivals, but music festivals of all kinds. Not everybody does this, but most people do. Think about the experience of the audience sitting through more than one act. What does that flow? What's it going to feel like to go out of Elizabeth Pfeiffer, like chilled out, kind of largely classical, into PPNOUs, like crazy in your face stuff. And you really, and we worked on this. We had some pretty big debates about some of this. You really want to make sure that you have some of those disruptive moments, because sometimes you want to shock them, The act right before the end of the first of the two concerts on Saturday, right before we go out to dinner, is always a really big high energy act. It's been PPNOU in the past. It's been the Dublin Ukulele Collective, just big groups of people. It was Hope and Social one year that we're going to wake people back up, basically. And then other times you want the transition to feel a bit seamless. You want it to feel like it just flows really gently from one to the other. And then the other thing is we don't always put the biggest names on the main stage. And if you come to us and you say, I'm only going to play if I can be on the main stage, you're probably not going to get programmed onto the main stage. And so I can name so many acts, and I will not, that have been upset when they came to GNUF and we didn't put them on the main stage, because no matter how many times they told us they were main stage material, I can assure you, sitting in the audience while they play the main stage is not a pleasant experience. And you have to, once we've identified artists who just maybe aren't ready for prime time, right? They're not going to carry a 500-seat auditorium. Working as a team to do our best to not tell those artists those words, and to help them understand that playing any stage in a festival is still a good space is one of the biggest challenges of programming. But I think it's also really important. You know, Phil Dolman some years isn't on the main stage. Percy Copley some years isn't even programmed to play on a stage, even though he's probably one of the biggest names in bluegrass in the UK. He's definitely more famous in wider music than most of the ukulele acts that we program. And so I think that's another one of the real challenges, and one of the things we try to be mindful about. Don't let someone's anxieties or ego tell you where they belong in the flow of what is the festival. If you're concerned about shaping a coherent experience that people will again feel included in and a part of.
A great example of this is there's an act called Brinks and Freshard, who are some of my favourite musicians. They came to the Grand Northern in 2019 and last year, and they played balalaika. They didn't play any ukulele. Great. But we had them on, the first year they came in Northern Quarter on the Friday night in a seated acoustic sort of style venue, and it was magical. And last time they played Parish on the Friday night. They also played in 2019 at the Head of Steam, Magic Rock, where we were. But the Magic Rock set they did outside in the smoking area at the tables, and just sat at a table and played. And it's stuff like that is, it makes you feel like you're sitting there in the music. It makes you feel more included, and it breaks that sort of thing. Those guys, Stanley Brinks was doing radio hits in the early 2000s. With the Wave Pictures, fairly big music, huge, and then playing not even a set at the LBT, and that's one of the things that I really like. I love you can find a weird thing that's not, or find something absolutely wonderful in a different place than on the main stage.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of the parish. So that's where I saw PPNOU, and so the being a guy that has worked at venues where you're running lights for a band you've never heard of, and you're doing sound at the same time. Like they got into doing Purple Rain, which their version of Purple Rain is just amazing, and the lighting guy had changed from a white and brought up the purple lights up onto the ceiling. I turned around, I was like, yay! And took a bow. He's so good, and so attentive, and it's so easy when you're doing gigs like that to just go, okay, well, it's going to circus lights here and not so much circus. Like to do one-offs, it's so difficult. But yeah, he was fantastic.
You got to give respect to the sound and lighting folks, because they can make or break you. So always be nice. Here's a tip to you performers out there. Always be nice to your sound person, because they can make you sound fantastic or not so much. Doug's like,
So how about some specific stories about how GNUF has impacted some players throughout the years?
Well, Opera played their first ukulele festival, and I think only their second ever gig for us, and has gone on to make a real name for themselves. Again, people like Isaac Hughes Dennis, Amber Sands, we gave opportunities to when they were just trying things out and just starting out, and I think that has made a real difference. It was only kind of tangentially supported by GNUF, but I single-handedly put on the biggest tour Sarah and Craig have ever done. I think it was like 18 dates or something about 8 or 9 years ago, which then created a friendship that met when I lost my baby brother a few years later. Sarah cooked 2 refrigerators full of food and drove it up from San Diego to Los Angeles to feed my family while we grieved.
Wow.
And I'm certain that was because that friendship was cemented by the work that we did to support them on that tour. We have inspired people. People tell us that we have inspired them to put on their own festivals and events. We've shared our advice and things like that, and I think that's made a real difference. And with bands like Dead Man Juke, who have been performing together for a decade, when they first started performing together, Tim Smithies said to me, "I'm thinking of doing some duo stuff with my son Jake. What do you think?" And I said, "I think it's a great idea." And early in their career, we raised money from GNUF to pay for them to fly to the Czech Republic to perform at one of the European festivals to help them get their foot into that scene. They play at loads of European festivals now. We did the same thing with Mark Gallagher. He wanted to go and take a punt on one of the mainland European festivals, and we raised some money to support him in going to do that. We did the same thing with the Mersey Bells. We sent them to another festival to help them kind of grow their audiences and things like that. So I think where GNUF has been able to do the most, from my point of view, for artists, has been where we've been able to either put money or time or resources behind them to help them do something that they wouldn't yet be able to do.
And to lead on from that, things like in previous years, we've commissioned actual full pieces. So like Andy Eastwood did a piece called Spacescape with a four-piece orchestra, string quartet. That's the word.
String quartet. Yeah,
it's beautiful. It's all on YouTube. It's one of my favorite things I've ever seen at the festival. And Andy redid that for us last year. Also with Tricity Vogue's all-girl swing band as a GNUF orchestra, which was great. But it's things like that. We once we commissioned Astra Luna to do a piece which involved a lot of looping and a lot of pedals, and that was really, really cool. And I believe there are more, but they've all gone out of my head, so I'm going to let Mary fill in if you can think of any more ones.
So we worked with Jake Smithies, who is the other duo, part of the Dead Man Juke duo. Jake is a designer. At our first festival, Jake was still in high school. So we've supported him as he's grown as a designer when he was a university student after. He's designed festival t-shirts and artwork for us on and off over the years. Not every year, because we like to mix it up sometimes. But we commissioned him. He wanted to try to make a book, an illustrated book. And he made one about Gerald, a ukulele player. We commissioned that so that he could publish an illustrated book of his own. And we've invested in him in other ways in terms of around design and stuff like that. Jake's been fantastic to work with. He's a very, very talented designer. He's an inspired musician and just a genuinely really cool and nice guy. And another thing we did, which is interesting, is Charlotta and Sage, who are the Moonberries, were just getting started as a band last year when we had our festival. And I thought it would be great to have them, but they were playing, I think, the Berlin Festival, which was the same weekend. I'd invited them. And they said no, but it kind of quite quickly came back and said, but what if we come to your festival next year? And at this point, they might have done 1 or 2 performances together, if that. And I never met Sage. I didn't know her from Adam. But my spidey sense and Robin's spidey sense said this duo really has legs. We should invest in them and make sure that we have them and put them on the main stage. And can I just tell you that Moonberries were phenomenal. And I already knew that Charlotta was fantastic. We'd had her in other bands at the festival before. But Sage Harrington is just lovely, talented, and so fun. Just a kind and generous person. And it was so nice to learn that about her. Because that 2-person duo was like one of the best things of the festival weekend for quite a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think that's great to invest in people like that. Yeah, you don't have to bat 1,000. You can, I think taking chances like that are awesome, and that's a good thing to do. That's great.
We didn't mention Mark Gallagher. We should have mentioned him.
Oh yeah, Mark Gallagher. What a fella.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. Do you guys know Mark? Doug, you must have.
Doug interviewed him.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, Mark. I first met Mark in 2017 after I'd done the world record. And Mark that year was doing some tech. The previous year, I believe, Mark had just played an open mic stage, and it led up to last year where Mark was the actor on Just Before Jake Shimabukuro at the end, which was a really nice progression. And just in the UK, I feel there's this big sort of thing where people have been watching Mark over the years put in the work, because Mark puts in the work every day of the week, 3 gigs in a day, 12 gigs in a weekend sort of fella. And it's so nice to see people really rooting for Mark and I don't want to say underdog because it's not quite, but there's a bit of that, you know, people first saw Mark in 2016 on the open mic stage, and now he's there. He's headlining Shrookfest this year. You know, he's a headlining boy now. He's too
Not
big for us. We
familiar with
can't
that
afford
one.
him.
Is that another Ook festival? What is that?
Yeah, it's another Uke Fest that came along a few years ago. That is kind of a camping ukulele festival. So it's not quite the same model as GNUF or some of the others. But it has a pretty big lineup, a mix of kind of club bands and smaller acts, and then some bigger names like Mark Gallagher and Phil Dolman. But I think Robin's right to point out the fact that they're putting Mark up there right on a par with Phil Dolman, who has headlined ukulele festivals in this country for like more than a decade.
Mm-hmm.
It says a lot. And Mark was a bit like Robin. Mark and Robin both came into the ukulele scene in this country when they were still students. Like they were school kids, basically. And I think, unfortunately, and this is not just about the ukulele scene, when somebody comes in when they're still kind of becoming, they're still figuring out who they are as a person, people might decide what they think of them before they have even figured out who they are themselves. And I feel with both Robin and Mark, I don't mean to pick on you, Robin, but I think we've seen you both grow and evolve and become these like inspiring young men in different ways, you know, doing your own thing. And I mean, Robin won't tell you this, but was it 2018 or 2019? He did a blues set on the main stage where he came out, played under a single red downlight, played some of the filthiest blues you've ever heard. You would have sworn he was from the Delta, born and raised.
Yeah.
And nobody knew what to expect because he had done different things before that. And similarly, Mark this year at the after party became a member of what was called U2.5. He did a pickup set with Abe Lagramus Jr. and ukulele, just knocked it out of the park.
They had Conchal from PPNOU on the drums, because Conchal from PPNOU, and he won't tell you this, but he's a very good drummer. He's like a professional studio drummer. And then they also had Julia Trazer, who is a delight of a human being, and Sage Harrington on backing vocals. And it was like the best collaborative band that you could have ever popped up. And the only reason this came about, and I'm taking credit for this, even though I definitely shouldn't, is that I booked all of the acts for the after party. I put all the timings in, and I forgot to tell any of the acts. So we just had to then win. At that point, please bear in mind, I'd done 7 other stages. This was the Sunday evening. It doesn't matter. They knew they were playing. They just didn't. Oh, most of them knew that. Some of them knew. Oh yeah, but no, it worked out for the best because that was a moment.
Yeah, when you have people that can do that together, just because both they're talented and they have that collaborative attitude, that's awesome. You know, got to roll with it. So,
if it's not in the show notes, you should add a link to Mark's collaboration videos.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I do have that is right there. And Mark, I got to interview Mark, and he was just fantastic. Like a really great conversation. It's yes, indeed, yay! Okay, so I know that this is like we're getting into a transition. Do you have anything that you want to say about the future of GNUF?
Yeah, can I take this one, Robin?
Yeah, you do it. I'm all yours.
Okay. So we are not going to do another festival that looks and feels like this year's GNUF, because frankly, I don't think we can top it. And I challenge anybody who would like to try to step up and do so. I would love to see you do so. We started GNUF to do a few things, to create a festival that felt inclusive, and that's how people describe GNUF to us. To create a ukulele festival that started to try to rebalance the gender split, that put more women on stage, that felt a bit more queer friendly. We wanted to start a ukulele festival that inspired people to go home and tell their clubs and jams about how great a ukulele festival can be, and maybe try to do it themselves. And I feel like we've achieved all of those things. So it puts us in a position to do something that I think the ukulele world needs. It needs somebody to ask, what is the magic of GNUF when at its best, but not just GNUF. What is the magic at that musical event where you go and you feel like you've connected to another person? You feel less lonely than you did the day before. You feel inspired. And how can we, me and Robin and Rob, find ways to take that magic to people rather than asking them to come to us? And how can we find ways to share what we've learned about creating magic in these musical spaces? So we're going to spend some time raising some money to give ourselves the time to try to co-create something with some of the artists that we've worked with and some of our audience members that might let us test this idea in a number of pilot projects over the next year or two that will maybe see some more ukulele magic created in a number of different places in ways that just don't feel like another festival. There are enough festivals. Go to them and have a great time.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done an amazing festival over 10 years. I'm really proud of it. We have the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service. No other ukulele festival in the world can ever say that. So yeah, we're going to turn our attentions towards trying to identify what that magic is, how we can amplify it and share it and inspire others to create it. So that's the next goal.
Wow, what a great answer. Yay!
Yeah, go out on top. That's always the thing, It's hard to do. I'm with you then. That would be fantastic.
Robin, anything to add?
No, I mean, Mary covered it all. I think also one of the things is I think we want to be kinder to ourselves when we do it. As Mary mentioned earlier, we're like primarily a volunteer-based organisation. This is a large chunk of our year. I mean, I know I tracked my hours for the first year this year just because I was curious. I've put in over 450 and I've still got more to go. Mary, I'm sure, is on the same. Rob can't be far behind that. We're all, I've got a day job. I'm a musician. Mary's a blooming associate dean of gubbins at Thingy-What's-It. And Rob is a self-employed luthier trying to make his own ukes at the same time. We do it out of the love of it, but we do also need to be fair on ourselves in a way that either takes less time, we get reimbursed in a better way, or just causes us less stress. I think that's the important thing, because also it's not sustainable for indefinitely if it's not fair to yourself. And I think that's we're now looking at legacy and how we can keep things going on. And so for that we've got to yay,
good answer.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of us, or hopefully we think about the legacy, what comes after. I know when you do something good at the volunteer level or whatever professional level, and then you see the results that are, as I think Mary, you said, the ripple effect, right? It spreads out and you can see those results years later, or just when somebody comes back, right? And you see how they've grown. That's pretty amazing. I think that's a wonderful idea that you guys want to then take all of that and maybe cut back and then spread what outward to other people. And I'm pretty sure that I can't say for sure, but I'm sure that I would guess that Craig and Sarah have taken some inspiration or ideas and things and put it into their own mix as they've gone out into their own ukulele cruises, ukulele camps, and I think now they're doing the ukulele school. They've taken over, I think, for that. Oh, why can't I think of it? Because he just retired, but he had a huge ukulele school in Hawaii, and now they're helping run that, I believe. So good on them.
Well, if you want to find out more about Craig and Sarah, their website is linked to in the show notes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So what's coming up for you personally, Robin?
So it's one of those times of year where you finish the festival and then you're in that sort of calm pool the other side that you haven't really thought about, but everything that you've said, oh yeah, I'll do that after Grand Northern's finished, is now coming up. So I yesterday I live in Norwich in the UK. I don't know if you guys know it. It's a city. It's a small city on the east coast in the middle of nowhere, which is great. So like yesterday was the Lord Mayor's Day, which means the Lord Mayor wears his big hat and big robes, and I'm the compere for that, and the compere for all city council events somehow. So do that. Bought a new guitar. There we go. It's that one. New guitar. But the actual exciting stuff is I'm working on my own solo music as a band setup. So I'm doing a lot of rehearsals for that. George and I, who are in Squat Lobster, are currently in the studio recording some of our Christmas songs. We've just got a few more to do, and hopefully we were aiming for a summer release because it's not going to be funny if we do it near Christmas. So that might have to be next year now, but you never know. So a bit of that, and I'm also looking at doing my own events at a smaller level, more locally, because I've got the skills to do it. I know what I want to do. It's just getting those in place and working on those. So that's primarily it for myself, and also spending some time with my wife rather than working on a festival for most of the year. That would be quite nice. And going to the pub. Yeah.
Nice.
Hey,
Yeah.
Mary
All
Agnes.
good things.
I know that you are all full of change.
Oh man, yeah. So I left my job of 20 years right before GNUF, where I was an associate dean for education at Sussex University, and I now live and work up near Newcastle, and I'm a deputy faculty pro vice chancellor for education. At a university called Northumbria University, where it appears they only hire awesome people. Everybody that I've met that I work with seems genuinely lovely, and I don't understand it. But so far, that has been my experience, and I've met dozens of people.
Wow.
So I'm settling into the new job. Rob, my husband, and I are moving up to the Newcastle area. He's going to then move his ukulele workshop up here. So we're going to spend a bit of time focusing on that, selling our house. Doing the move, and then I'm already starting the fundraising to try to give us that capacity to do some of this kind of different work. Some of which, Robin's mentioned, like one of the things I want to do is find a way to continue investing in Robin doing things that he would like to do. So the work on whatever comes next has already begun. And then at the same time, I'm like, Robin mentioned this, like being kinder to yourselves. Like it takes so much work to put on a festival and to do that on top of a quite intense full-time job. And Robin can tell you that once I got promoted to like the executive level, the associate dean level at the university, my job just got so much bigger and so much more intense. And I realized that if I'm working in a really intense way at my job, and I'm putting on a ukulele festival, I might not be giving myself enough time to like cook nice food or exercise or just look after myself. And so I've already started just walking more, moving more, eating less and eating healthier. And then, also hanging out with my husband. My husband, Robert Collins, is not only an awesome ukulele maker, he is a hilarious and kind person. And who wouldn't want to spend more time with that man? Am I right, Robin?
I'd have used just the word DILF, and I think we'd have all got what you mean.
Well, I got to help him over the weekend, and he was fantastic to work with. So that was great. Well, that was great. Stuart, what's coming up for you?
I'm still working on the Plant Zen project, which has, at this moment, has very little to do with ukulele. At the moment, I'm hoping to bring some in, but it's using, well, first of all, I've got some song ideas that I want to try and incorporate into an album, and I'm collaborating with a friend of mine, a wonderful musician. We already have one song that we've done called Heart of Kyber, and I will put it on the show notes. It's a fun little song. So Star Wars fans out there, you go and listen to that. You should be able to tell me what episode or what movie it's from. And it's a lot of fun. So take a listen to that. Other than that, I'm trying to figure out how to retire. I think is the next grand thing on my list. Just have enough to retire. So,
I hear
Doug,
ya.
and what about you, Doug? What's on your
I
list?
keep telling Kai Holton Brown that she needs to work a lot harder if I'm going to retire next year. So
Yeah, there you go.
actually, we're doing very, very well, and that is entirely due to Kai Holton Brown's financial acumen.
Ah,
So I am
nice.
so thankful. But the Denver Youth community, we have our meeting coming up next Saturday is going to be country songs, but not that kind of country. It's songs about different countries of the world. It's going to be awesome. And then the Ukulele Anarchy, we've Portland Ukulele Anarchy, which is the online strum along that I host, is doing a series of color songs. So we did red, white, blue, black. Like we're rocking right along. That's super fun. And then coming up, not this Thursday, but next Thursday, the Stanley Lake Library is having a strum along that's here in Arvada. We're having a live strum along. Oh, I miss live strum along so much. Hosted by Doug Brown. Yay! So,
Doug Brown.
So that has been getting ready for that has been very, very, very cool. So, but we've been super busy getting ready for all the strums that are coming up. But, well, thank you all so much for being here. It's wonderful to talk to you all, and thank you for being so accommodating. And at GNUF, I had just a wonderful, wonderful time. And as we do at the end of every episode,
and we will get to that, but I just wanted to say this. Thank you. I'm just really appreciative of Doug putting this together. Usually, I'm the one getting the guests and the interview questions. It's been so wonderful, nice to just kind of sit back here and listen, Doug. So really excellent work on your part. Thank you so
I do
much.
what I can.
All right, so go ahead with the ending here too. So you do the honors.
Yep. So when I count to 3, we're all going to say aloha. 1, 2, 3.
Aloha. Awesome.
Yay.
Thank you very much.
Well, hey,